at this point, in the thing, we're basically committed to hiring a ransomware negotiator. But I'm guessing most companies have never been in this position before, and they don't necessarily know how to window shop for
Right.
a ransomware negotiator, or know how not to hire a bad one. So, can you give us some examples of some bad negotiating techniques that ransomware negotiators have used that actually made things worse for their clients?
Yeah, I've actually read the transcripts. We've gotten
Ah,
pulled into some to do some cleanup a
okay.
couple times, and I got the transcripts. The funniest part about that is sitting down with the CISO and saying, "Hey, bud, the bad guys aren't going to differentiate between me and the people that were here before, not easily anyway. So
Hmm.
it's going to
Yeah,
be hard for me to do that." But yeah, so I mean, first of all, it is. I don't want to give away trade tactics too much, but I'll
sure.
tell you, first of all, there is no reason to remind the bad guy that he's a bad guy. He
Yeah,
knows
yeah,
that, and
yeah,
it sets the wrong tone. It's very antagonistic. The best way to
yeah.
approach this is to approach them as a business person that you're doing
Hmm.
a transaction with,
Got it.
and conveying some sort of condescending tone, and that's what I've seen in some of these transcripts, is not a good idea. And also be responsive. If they ask you a question, do not answer for a week. Now there are in negotiation, there is value in delays,
Hmm.
and you can use those surgically. But generally speaking, if you ignore them, you're going to make them angry,
Hmm.
and so you need to at least keep a heartbeat going with the communication flow. Yeah.
And I imagine a lot of the sort of condescension or the sort of antagonistic language is just personal embarrassment on the part of the companies that got hit, right? Like you're probably just sort of angry and confused, and you're just like, oh, I'm so mad about this, So,
Which is why you should hire a negotiator to begin
yeah,
with.
and also
Their
why you need to
objective.
take a breath between, like, when
Mhm.
they say something to you, you need to sort of like don't just react with your gut. I imagine, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. And a lot of the principles of standard negotiation apply. The
Mm-hmm.
currency is a little different.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a hostage negotiation necessarily, but
Yeah.
you can take pages from, say, Chris Voss's book and apply them directly
Yeah.
to this discipline. Yeah.
Okay, so what are some red flags you should be watching for when considering hiring a ransomware negotiator? I mean, is there a Yelp for negotiators, or
Well,
how
yeah.
do you know, like, that you've unless you use GroupSense, like, what? How do you know you got a good one?
Well, I appreciate the kind words, but you're right. There's no litmus test for this at the
Hmm.
moment. The main one is, is the firm on what they call the panel of any cyber insurance company? So,
Okay.
cyber insurance companies handle enough of these that they know who the good negotiators are, and they have a list of approved negotiators. I will say that's not 100% fail proof, because
Hmm.
some of the transcripts I previously mentioned, they were brought in by a cyber insurance company, and that didn't go well.
Okay.
But generally speaking, either the law firm, your external counsel that is advising you on the breach, which you should have, or your cyber insurance company, or any cyber insurance company. If you don't have one, you can reach out and say, who's on your panel, and that's a good first step, for sure.
Okay. So yeah, obviously one of the things I said at the intro of the show, and that you had noted, is that, there's this wide variety of quality and ransomware negotiators, and it partly stems from the fact that there's no real way of indicating compliance, or a baseline of knowledge for this type of job. Anyone can do it. Anyone can hang their shingle outside of their house. So, if given the chance, how would you craft a ransomware negotiator certification that demonstrates baseline understanding of this task?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, I can tell you what I think has worked well for us
Okay.
is, coming from the intelligence space, that, so, backing up real quick,
Hmm.
let's just recognize that negotiation in general of any kind is largely a soft skill.
Yes.
And those things are hard to train. And
Yeah.
so, one of the things that one of the assumptions I made early when we got into doing this was that I thought the IR firms, the incident response firms, were doing this, and they're not. And it makes sense to me, because who are the people who do IR? They're malware reversal people. They're very
Yep.
technical. They're not soft skill people. They're not
Yeah.
negotiators.
Yeah. They're solving problems in the
They're
machine,
solving
really.
very technical problems, and you
Hmm.
should absolutely involve them in the process. But
Right.
they're not the new negotiator. And so, first there's the soft skill part, but what really powers that, or makes that dangerous, if you will, is access to information about the threat actors. And so, our company has cyber intelligence as a discipline. That's what we do. We have a lot of information about these threat actors, who they are, who they target, what tools they use. All of this is very useful information to bring to the table when you're negotiating. At a minimum, it lets you know how dangerous these folks are, and you can advise the company, hey, look, these guys can really do some damage, or these guys are rather harmless. They're just deploying, a standard template tool set. They're not going to they're not going to re-hack your network and punish you.
Right.
So just coming to the table with some background knowledge, someone who has some background in intelligence, cyber intelligence specifically, would be useful to have. But again, sometimes those folks are very technical, and the soft skill is hard to transfer. And that and we struggle with that internally. I am the CEO, but I'm also the primary negotiator, and we have a couple of folks that we're training up from their former law enforcement, so they had some prior training on this, and we're training them up. But it's difficult to do that, live fire.
New episodes of the CyberWork podcast are available every Monday at 1 p.m. Central. And don't forget to check out our hands-on training series, CyberWork Applied. Each week, expert Infosec instructors teach you a new cybersecurity skill and show you how that skill applies to real-world scenarios. Go to infosecinstitute.com/learn to stay up to date on all things CyberWork.